China is so much of the reality of what's happening today. And we don't like to talk about it. Americans don't care what's going on in other countries. They only care if the country is a threat to us, and China is a threat to us. But also, it's an important philosophical entity because it has invented a new form of oppression that is perfectly fine with our elites, and not just leftist elites. I mean, this is something that actually goes beyond left and right. It actually just goes to wealth and power and a sort of sense of globalism. So I talked about this a long time ago. A couple of months ago, I talked about this, about the fact that guys like Jack Dorsey and, the people running Google and the people running Apple, that they're not opposed to China. They're not going to fight with China because they are China, because they essentially embody this philosophy in which the rich get rich, but they don't stop you from getting rich. They give you all kinds of good things except the freedom to express yourself as you wish. That's essentially what happens in China. You can get very rich as long as you don't say that there's something wrong with the government, then you vanish. And that's what happens on Twitter too, right? Except they don't kill you, but they just disappear you if you say something that is outside of what they believe to be not the truth. They don't believe it's the truth. They just believe it's what you should be saying. So now Lee Smith, a talented journalist, has written this really good article for Tablet magazine. It's called The 30 Tyrants, which is an unfortunate title because it kind of doesn't tell you what it's about. But the reason he calls it The 30 Tyrants is that after the Peloponnesian War, when Sparta defeated Athens, they installed an Athenian government of 30 tyrants in Athens. They were called the tyrants by those who hated them, of 30 people in Athens who were Athenians, but who had always hated democracy. Remember, democracy was new, and so people were saying, well, this is terrible. Why should you give the rabble a word and a voice in what's happening in the government? So they installed these Athenians who yet hated Athenian democracy to rule. It didn't last long, but what Lee Smith is saying in this article was he was comparing our government to the 30 tyrants in Sparta because their allegiance is elsewhere. And he talks about, he traces this back to a 2009 column by Thomas Friedman. A lot of people, Thomas Friedman writes in the New York Times, a former newspaper. He's on Knucklehead Row. And Friedman this is a famous column where he says, one-party autocracy certainly has its drawbacks, but when it's led by a reasonably enlightened group of people, as China is today, it can also have great advantages. That one party can just impose the politically difficult but critically important policies needed to move a society forward in the 21st century. And basically what he says is these errant Republicans, these troglodyte Republicans, these deplorable humans are getting in the way of us experts, our brilliant plans to run the world. And this is what you're hearing in Davos with the Great Reset. We're going to make sure that the economies of the world address our shared concerns. And if those aren't your shared concerns, you are disappeared. If you say, this climate emergency is just a computer model, and therefore, just logically, it might be completely wrong, you're gone. They don't kill you like in China. They just silence you. They take away your TV show. They take away your friends' ratings on Facebook or whatever. They make it difficult for you to be heard. They make it impossible for you to be heard. If you say, actually every cell of your body is gendered, so you can't actually go from being a man to a woman, you're gone. They don't kill you. They just silence you but you get a lot of money, you get cheap iPhones. The little slave labor in China makes those iPhones even cheaper. Don't worry about it that you're out of work, because look at all the money you save on your iPhone. So Smith talks about this, and Tucker Carlson had him on. And he basically talks about the fact that the elites have left the American building. This is cut number 2.
Why people are coming across the border in such profound numbers. It all looks crazy until you realize there's a reason it's going on. And the reason is because the oligarchy that runs this country now is not primarily loyal to the United States. They do not care about the amount of damage they do to America. They don't care about the amount of damage they do to Americans. That's part of the system. Their primary loyalty is to their relationship to the Communist Chinese Party. That is their center of gravity. It's the source of their wealth, privilege, and prestige.
And I think the important thing to realize here, Smith, I think, has a slightly conspiratorial attitude toward this. He kind of pictures it more as a conspiracy than I do. I don't think it's a conspiracy like in the James Bond movies where they sit at a long table and say, how's the extortion going in Poland and, that kind of thing. I don't think it's like that. I think it's a conspiracy of interests. They may not like the Chinese. They may think, well, it's awfully nasty what they're doing about the Uyghurs, but think of the money we save on iPhones. That's kind of what they're thinking about. As he says, it's the source of wealth. It's a big market that Disney can make a lot of money being kowtowing to the people who kill the Uyghurs, as long as they get rid of Gina Carano when she speaks about freedom. That's because that's the real problem. The real problem is the girl on The Mandalorian, not the prison camps in China, because we're thanking them in China in Mulan. That's the whole thing. It's just following their interests, following the money, which is why I continually tell you that to worship capitalism instead of realizing that we have to have values that underlie capitalism, that go before capitalism, is a big mistake. So you know how rested you feel when the alarm goes off the morning after a deep sleep? What's it like? Because I have no idea. I never sleep, but that's why I'm glad I have a Helix Sleep mattress, because when I'm lying awake, I like to be comfortable. And Helix Sleep has a quiz that takes just 2 minutes to complete, matches your body type and sleep preferences to the perfect mattress for you. And whether you're a side sleeper, a hot sleeper, or in my case, a not sleeper, they can give you the perfect mattress. Helix Sleep is rated the number one mattress by GQ and Wired. Just go to helixsleep.com/Klavan. Take the 2-minute sleep quiz and they will match you to a customized mattress that will give you the best sleep of your life and give me the best lying awake of my life. Helix mattresses have a 10-year warranty. They're made right in America, and you can try it out for 100 nights risk-free, and they will pick it up for you for free if you don't love it, but you will. Right now, Helix is offering up to $200 off all mattress orders at helixsleep.com/Klavan. Get up to $200 off at helixsleep.com/Klavan. And I know you're lying awake at night. You think, gee, I'm comfortable, but I don't know how to spell Klavan. It's Klavan. And he goes on to talk about Donald Trump. Smith goes on to talk about Donald Trump. And this is really important because one of the things he says is that Trump has actually changed, even among establishment politicians. He has turned the tide a little bit against China. They're keeping, even the Biden administration is keeping some of the tariffs against China in place. But one of the things that Trump failed at, and it's really a shame, was he didn't understand, I think, how entrenched the opposition was and how much it mattered that he have a staff, that he staffed his administration and the agencies with people who would support him. Because basically, he stood alone. And while he may have felt he could do that, you just can't. They're just too powerful. Here's Smith again, cut 3.
Now, one of the interesting things that happened during the Donald Trump presidency, because Donald Trump started calling these people out, I think that Donald Trump didn't even have that clear a sense of how tied in, how extensive this network was. One of the examples I mentioned is, for instance, whoever would have put Apple CEO Tim Cook and LeBron James in the same family album. But there they are, sure enough, because they both their wealth relies on the two same things: cheap Chinese labor and a growing Chinese consumer market. And if you look across, it's not just entertainment, it's not just tech. It goes into the corporate worlds. It goes into finance. Unfortunately, it affects our government throughout.
And he talks about this. He elaborates on how it affects our government, because it's not just business. It is government as well. And this is on Tucker Carlson and Lee Smith talking about his article in Tablet Magazine, The 30 Tyrants. Here he is talking about how it affects the government. This is cut 4.
One of the most astonishing revelations was a memo that former DNI John Ratcliffe wrote regarding the CIA, regarding their intelligence analysis. CIA management was apparently bullying analysts, saying they didn't like their analysis of China because they were worried about the policies it might encourage, meaning Donald Trump's policies, who was hard on China. Therefore, CIA management was protecting China from solid analysis. It's astonishing, but take it one step further. Remember who owns the cloud on which all of the CIA's information is collected, and that's Jeff Bezos, who is China's #1 distributor in the United States.
So, and this is not necessarily a Democrat-Republican thing, and as we're looking at the Biden administration, the signals so far are mixed. They've taken some hard lines with China. Like I said, they kept the tariff on. On the other hand, they rejoined the World Health Organization and basically abandoned, scuttled any examination on whether China is responsible for the Chinese flu out of Wuhan. They couldn't possibly be responsible for that. It's just one of those things. But you know, they've canceled that. They're going easier than Trump did on the investigation into these Confucius Institutes by which China has been spying on our academies and has also been basically telegraphing to Chinese students that they're still under the watchful eye of the Chinese. But what makes all this part of the kabuki show of government is they're impeaching Donald Trump, no longer the president, but they've got to impeach him so they can remove him from office that he's already been removed from. But who's prosecuting him? Eric Swalwell. Eric Swalwell, who was bang-banging Fang Fang, who was basically dipping it in a Chinese honeypot, a Chinese spy, apparently maybe allegedly, let's say, having an affair with her, but he hasn't been removed from the Senate Intelligence Committee. And he gets up and he makes this speech against Donald Trump. This is cut 19.
I hope the Democrats, and even more importantly, the weak and ineffective rhino section of the Republican Party, are looking at the thousands of people pouring into D.C. They won't stand for a landslide victory to be stolen. At Senate Majority Leader, at John Cornyn, at Senator John Thune.
So he's reading this tweet that's supposedly inciting this riot. It turns out he actually put a blue check mark on the tweet to make it sound more important when the woman didn't have a blue check mark. And he then said that she was calling in the cavalry, but she was calling in the Calvary, meaning she wanted to have a prayer meeting. So this is like a guy who was basically having it on with a Chinese spy, still on the Senate Intelligence Committee, telling us that Donald Trump is a danger to the nation. If that is not Showtime, if that's not reality TV instead of reality, I don't know what is.